Welcome to Poemify podcast, the poetry and art talk show, where we celebrate the beauty and diversity of African art. Our show features interviews with African artists, poets, and other creatives who draw inspiration from the rich cultural heritage of Africa. In each episode, our host engages in a lively discussion with our guests, delving into the inspiration behind their arts, the cultural significance of African work, and the role of poetry and arts in promoting and preserving African culture. So, if you're a lover of arts, poetry, or African culture, tune into our podcast today and join us on this exciting journey of discovery and creativity. Once again, welcome to Poemify Podcasts.
Hi, Patience.
Hi, how you doing?
Fine, finally. Good evening.
Good evening.
Oof, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you clearly.
All right, thank you so much. So before the network starts its witchcraft, let's just get into it.
All right now.
Thank you so much. So good to have you on today's episode, Patience. Thank you so much for your patience. I'm really grateful for your patience. So, please, can you tell us more about yourself? Who's Patience Agada?
All right. Hi, my name is Patience Agada, also known as Word Diva. I'm a writer, a spoken word poet, a radio presenter, a voiceover artist, and a voiceover actor, an event host, red carpet hostess, and many other things. I like to say above all things, I am human. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for the last part. You are human. Yeah, because anyone that will just listen to all what you do, I feel intimidated. The person will just be like, oh, when will I get to this level? So thank you for reminding us that you are human and what you can do, we can do too. Thank you. So how did you first become interested in spoken word poetry?
My interest grew from literature. I love literature as a subject, and I had great interest for books at a tender age. So that interest grew down to the genre of literature called poetry, and from there, it started as a contest for me because the school where I was, my secondary school, was invited for a poetry competition on this same day because today's Girl Child Day.
Yeah.
By the way, happy National Girl Child Day.
Happy, thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. So it was on this day that I performed my first poem titled Showcasing the Potential of a Girl Child. And it was the poem that won the competition on that day. And that is how my journey into writing and performing poetry began.
Wow. So how did you feel performing for the first time?
I was really nervous. At some point I was forgetting, before the contest, for my performance, I was thinking I was going to forget my lines. I was very scared, and my teacher kept encouraging me, saying I can do it. But when I started, and the whole frenzy, the crowd reaction, before I know, I was already interpreting, gesticulating with my hands. My facial expression was changing. My voice became louder. My body movement was superb. And before you know, I was already in the poem. I was becoming the poem right there on stage. And when I had ended that poem, there was this rowdy sounding ovation and applause rancouring the whole of the building. I felt super excited.
Yes, I can relate. I know how nerve-wracking it would be to come on stage for the first time, trying to keep eye contact. Would I flop? How would I do? What am I going to say? Hope I won't forget my lines. And it's actually a nice experience that years back. How many years now?
I think he's way over 7 years. because I was in
Wow, that
20, that was in 20, I think 20, 14, 2013, thereabouts. That's when it started.
um that's quite a long time. And look at how
Yeah.
much you acquired. So, what drew you to pursue it as a form of artistic expression?
Sorry, come again.
Like, what drew you to pursue spoken words poetry as a form of artistic expression? Like, if you could have just written, but what drew you to like pursue this as a form of
Yeah.
artistic expression?
Okay. For me, I would just feel like I found essence in it. I just felt fulfilled doing it, because at some point I tried to quit. Uh,
Mm,
yeah, after Islam, I didn't emerge a winner, and then I felt like I was gonna quit this. At that point, I felt like, let me just be done with this stuff. Challenges to make you want to rethink what you're doing, but then I couldn't. It was very hard because I became one with the poem. The poem was me, and I was the poem. And so I was telling myself that if you cut my flesh now, you see still poetry dripping out of my blood. So
mm-hmm.
I felt I found essence in this thing. So it was hard for me to just quit, and I kept going and going and going. And for the very fact that you go to an event and you perform, and people will like, you spoke to me, thank you for this, it meant a lot to me, you have helped me done this. I feel all those remarks, all those impacts, all the feeling of just helping someone out there with the words that you can say, just because you have that creative ability, kept
Yeah,
me all these years going and pursuing, not even for the money or for the reward or for the applauses. Well, the very fact that I know that I'm touching somebody's life, I'm giving solace to somebody, I'm bringing succor to somebody in sorrow, I'm giving somebody hope amidst all the darkness, that gives
yeah.
me the joy to keep going.
Wow, that's a
Yeah.
whole lot. So how do you approach the creative process when crafting a new spoken words piece? I know it's not easy trying to rack your head to know what fits and how to deliver this message perfectly. So, how do you approach the creative process when crafting a new spoken word piece?
Okay, for me, I feel like this is the dynamic part of right, like poetry in general. So whether
Mhm.
spoken word poetry, page poetry, this is the dynamic part because it can happen anytime. As weird
Yeah,
as just having an idea knocking you right in the bathroom, or just having a just free spirited conversation with somebody. You can just have an idea just come into your head, and before you know, you're already reminiscing over it. You're already running your mind over and see how what you can bring out of this. For me, it takes me time. My mind dwells on a particular topic, and I'm beginning to think of how to start. What would be the beginning, the introduction? What I begin to think of it. Sometimes the lines form in my mind before I take them down to paper. So it can happen in any form. Sometimes I might just be taking my bath and this thing will just drop in my mind, from a movie, from a book, from different phrases. It just comes to you in different ways. It might just be an experience, a heartbreak, as simple as seeing a baby cry. You get
yeah,
different things. So it just starts from somewhere. Before you know, you have this spark, this trickle, and you're really writing something. It might just be a line, two lines, a stanza, and you're there.
yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you. Because some people think that, oh, poets are just born like that. You just sit down and then the words flow. They don't know it just does not, it doesn't come as easy as they think it does. So thank you for sharing your process. So as a spoken words poet, what role do you believe poetry plays in Nigerian society?
Sorry, I didn't get that.
Like as a spoken words poet, what role do you believe poetry plays in the Nigerian society? How can it inspire, raise awareness, or address social issues?
Okay, I feel it has, like I always tell people, poetry has come beyond just mere entertainment. It's a
Yeah.
weapon for mass education. It's a weapon that we all must embrace. Poetry can be used to enlighten people, whether in the rural area or in the urban area. Poetry can be used to educate people. Poetry has a way of increasing retentive memory.
Mm,
Yes, poetry have a way of expanding one's mind, has a very lyrical way of teaching things. Most times, the things that you remember from your primary, from your secondary, are things that were made into music, that are made musical for you. And
yeah.
there's a type of poetry that works with that, the lyrical poetry you get. from lyrical poems. I know many people remember Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. That's a poem.
Definitely.
Yes, and a lot of people can remember that. Imagine if that is being put into use to teach people. So we have the issue or exam malpractice being erased because people have better retentive memories that can read and understand. We have things that are made in something interesting. Poetry is very interesting. So imagine that we imbibe it in our teaching method in the education sector, the educational sector. It goes a long way. People become interested in learning, not just going to school, but in acquiring knowledge. And then poetry becomes a medium, gives you the opportunity to be able to express yourself concerning the government, concerning certain policies you want the government to implement. You can just talk about it through your poems to express the rich culture of the place you come from. You can use the poem to describe that. You can use poem to advertise. Yes, we have brands, we have companies embracing poetry to tell their stories because poetry tells story. Or we have places like Heritage Bank using poetry to pass their message, to talk about how the rich culture of Africa, rich culture of Nigeria. These are different means in which poetry can be used to, impact this nation, to impact any nation at all, to impact anybody. Yeah, so these are just the few.
Yeah, you made a valid point concerning the educational sector. Like, a lot of students would not have to lie low to cheat if poetry or lyrical ways of teaching or are implemented into the educational sector, because we all remember our rhymes and all. So if teachers or lecturers learn how to teach students, because every student have different ways of learning, but generally we all remember songs rather than what we read in the books. That's actually a nice way to approach this. Thank you so much. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I'm here.
So, are there any particular Nigerian poet or literary figure who have influenced your work to date?
Yeah, there are. There are a couple of persons I listen to, and I still do listen to, and I enjoy their poems. The likes of Graciano Ewerim, D.K. Chukwumerije, the likes of Fragile. We also have I want to see the great Toby Abiodun, and Tope. Is it Tope that's a name right now? I think I'm mixing the name or something. And many others. I listen to and I enjoy their poems, and sometimes draw inspiration from their poems. But these are a few. There are many. I like to listen to different content to know which one I relate to it and which one I align with. So I listen to, and there's no particular person. I listen to an array of poems from different poets in Nigeria.
Oh, that's nice. So, what challenges have you faced as a spoken word poet in Nigeria so far?
Okay, one of the challenge, what is something that I'll say most artists or performance poet find challenging is gathering resources. When I say resources, I mean finance to support or push what you do in terms of promotion, in terms of production, and every other thing. You need to make, as a poet, performance poet precisely, you need to make videos, you need to get your costumes, get the things that you require to make such videos, and also promote those videos on different streaming platforms, and also to ensure that people get to see it, because what is a piece of art if people cannot see it and enjoy it? The end product of every production is for the consumers to be able to see it, for the audience to be able to appreciate it. So it's very difficult to finance all these things, all these processes. Most times getting resources is very challenging for creative and also for me. Another thing is getting the right platform. Getting the right platform sometimes can be very difficult. Well, thank God for the internet now and the various social media platforms that we have. One can just be in the comfort of your room and you'll be able to make out something beautiful. And then sometimes merging poetry with other things that you do can be challenging depending on your routine. For instance, I am a radio presenter amidst other things, and I try to merge these things together sometimes. You know how the routine of a media person can be. You don't have a holiday.
Exactly. Yes.
You're always on duty, whether it's Christmas, whether it's whatever public holiday, you're still in the office. And when you have a performance, you have to prepare for it alongside, and you have news to cast, you have other things, you have news to write. There's just so much to put together, and it's more challenging for a female. I bet you think it's more challenging for females. I've seen females that have gotten married and then their career ended,
Yeah,
and
I
you
have.
get to performance more. You get
Yeah.
you feel me, yeah. So
Yeah,
that's it. Those are the few challenges I think I can pinpoint right now.
okay, thank you so much. So, how do you engage your audience during performances?
All right, so like in the media we say, or on radio rather, we say one of the best instrument, one of the finest instrument is your voice. The first thing your audience get to hear aside seeing you is your voice. No matter how finely dressed the person is, the first thing that grabs the attention or is much more appealing is when you hear the person. When you open your mouth, the first thing that falls out of your mouth, the sound of your voice. A person may be shabbily dressed, but your sound of your voice can turn a lot of heads around. Imagine you see a very huge person that comes on stage, and then the person opens his mouth, the first thing that comes out is a tiny girly voice. You get, that's the effect. So your voice, the way you use your voice goes a long way to catch the attention of the audience. You understand? And then the next thing is your facial expression. You get your facial
Yeah.
So those things are the things that are able to, catch the attention of the audience aside
Yeah.
any other thing, to keep them glued to what you're saying. It gives you an excellent delivery.
Yeah. Thank you so much. So finally,
Yeah.
what advice do you have for people who are working towards being a spoken word poet? What advice do you have for them?
All right. So, first of all, I would tell that person to prepare ahead for challenges. In as much as you're going to be positive, just know that you're going to fail at some point. When I mean fail, is that you might not be at your best all the time. You also need a mentor, someone you look out up to, someone that can help you, can correct you, can put you in the right, someone that you feel your concept or your kind of poetry align with. The mistake many young people do is that they get mentors that are not in line with what they want to do or what they do, and sometimes there's a conflict of what should be and what should not. So you need to prepare to read, because it is when you read that you can write. You need to want to make research. You need to be open to changes. You need to embrace change, and you need to be versatile too and spontaneous, because there are times that requires you to do something out of the box, out of what you're used to. So you should be open-minded, ready to learn, make your research, have a mentor, and then look out for content, other people's content, go over other people's work, and be ready to just take the world by the storm. Yes, and then do things that you know are inside of you. Don't be a photocopy. Don't be somebody else. Be you. There's something the world is looking out for that is not found in anybody, and it's new.
Exactly.
So just do that you. And before you know, you might just be the next Harvey. You might just be you get the next superstar that nobody saw coming. So like that.
Exactly. Yes, thank you for that last statement. Be you. Because I've been in a situation where, or I've gone to an event when someone comes on stage and says a piece that's not theirs, but they package it as if it's their own.
Yeah.
And you know that, okay, I have listened to this piece online.
Yeah.
And I was like, why would you do this? I was not feeling the connection. They were just saying it as if it was just something. And why would you take on that person's work? Just be you, do you. Don't go out there copying other people. You can look them up and get inspiration from them, but do not take on that person's work from the beginning to the end. That's plagiarism. Not.
Okay.
So just do you, be you. Thank you for
Yeah.
your advice. And I just want to congratulate you once more on your award during
Thank you.
your studies. So how did you feel getting the award?
Well, I would say I was awed. I was amazed because I was not even in town within that space, and I wasn't really thinking I was gonna get an award. You get, for being a whole year away, but I'm still doing my stuff right here. Though we're in the digital and global world right now. Well, I felt like I've not been on stage like I used to be for a while now, because I'm not where I'm quite known, in as much as I've been on stage here twice. So I was just surprised though. Well, I appreciate them. It just means that art never grows old. It's classic.
Never.
Yeah.
Never. And who would not want to get a piece of your voice? I mean, my God. if this
Thank
voice
you.
wakes me up, if this voice wakes me up every morning, breakfast is served.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for honoring my invitation, honoring our invitation. Thank you for your patience. I'm grateful. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Yeah, so this is the end of the episode.
Oh, okay.
All right, but before we go, can you just tell us where we can connect with you on Facebook, Instagram, on your social media handles, so people can get to see what you do and
all right, so for Instagram and Twitter is WordDiva _ Agada. Agada is spelled as AGADA. Words is spelled as WORDSDIVA. WordDiva together _ Agada. And on Facebook is WordDiva. Just together, the page is WordDiva. And on TikTok is WordDiva _ Agada. That's it. Everywhere. WordDiva Agada everywhere. WordDiva Agada everywhere.
Yeah. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Yeah, do have an amazing week.
You too. Thank you so much.
I'm grateful. All right. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Poemify podcast. We hope you enjoyed every bit of it. Did you? If yes, do well to share with your art-loving friends. It's the least you can do for art's sake, you know. See you on the next episode.